urban core. So think within 405, right? Within that urban core, and you're seeing significant density, and they can make it there. Where it's not working is outside of that, and it's just not penciling. The rent that they need to make to pay for the construction doesn't make the project feasible. So what we would need to do is, how do we come together and look at those barriers, tweaking the code? How do we make it? Because what we're losing out on is units. We need units. So if the code and the restrictions aren't providing the basic units that we need, we're making the situation worse. So we can't make the developers lose money, right? We can't force them to do a project where they're going to lose money. We need to step back and reflect and work in collaboration and say, why isn't this working?
Thank you. Folks, remember, put your questions in the chat and we're going to get through them that way. Marcia, do we have more questions?
Yeah, actually, and this is kind of a follow-up on the same point is, so what are the things that we can be doing to close the gap quickly as possible? And what are you planning to do that is different, that is a change from what is going on now?
So what I would do different, and so looking at collaboratively with the jurisdictions and the data, can we say, look, we're not achieving our, basically we came together as a region and we said, we want to go up, we don't want to go out, right? That's kind of the premise, what makes Portland huge region. So I would challenge, this would be unique for Metro, sitting down with the city of Portland to say, we need to fix this. This is impacting the entire region. If we can't get the density that we envisioned, we are pushing out to our suburban areas and our ring. How do we come together? So it's a different approach. And I would challenge, Metro has done that for decades with the suburban communities. You can't build gated communities. You need to connect through. You have to limit your parking. Metro has always pushed back on regulations. I would challenge that and sit down with Portland and say, look, from a regional perspective, we are hurting ourselves by not providing the units that we need, because the market wants to go there. The developers want to build those projects. It's just not penciling. The other thing we're going to have to look at, and that's what's critical coming up, is the UGB expansion in 2 years. So where are we going to expand in those communities? How do we get the infrastructure there? How do we build those units and make sure we're providing a mix? So it's not just straight single family. Is it apartments? Is it affordable? And bring those communities on board. And Metro needs to take a proactive role. They're taking more of a passive role right now. They need to be more engaged and really looking forward and working collaboratively with the communities of how we're going to address this.
Thank you, Alisa. Britton.
We just hit 10 minutes. So
all right.
Maybe one more very quick question, then we got to move on.
Thank you. Marcia, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Okay. And actually, we got a couple of really good questions here now about how that development also, how we are addressing climate needs as we're doing that. Mm-hmm. And with some referral to the REACH proposal that's in the legislature right now.
So, I think that again is what makes Portland a national leader, right? Is we have always been looking and challenging ourselves. How are we going to do planning and transportation differently? We do not follow conventional wisdom. And actually, Robert Liberty, if some of you are familiar with that, he's former director of Thousand Friends of Oregon, former Metro councilor, is endorsing me because he recognizes that I am taking a holistic approach of recognizing the market realities, very pragmatic, but also holding true to how are we going to address climate change through how we're building our built form. So what we need to be doing, transportation, greenhouse gases, right? The biggest impact is coming from transportation. So we need to continue to work with our communities and make sure we're going to have to build the units. I think we need to recognize that. I don't think we can just say we're not growing anymore, but how we can grow smart. And we've seen those changes just visiting in Sherwood and Cornelius and other communities. So we need to keep that path going forward. But we also need to recognize, one of the challenges I'm hearing from the climate proposal is removing parking requirements, right? And so there's concerns out there that That might work in an urban environment. It's not going to work in our rural periphery communities. So what I would want to balance is we really need to make sure we're listening and realizing this is a very diverse region, right? We have very diverse, especially even in Multnomah County, you have different communities from Wood Village, Troutdale, Gresham. So let's be thinking about that in terms of how are we providing these solutions.
All right, thank you. Britton, do we have a, okay, so because of timing, I've been informed we have a minute. So Alisa, we'd like to give you a minute to just kind of wrap things up. Give us your last, quick minute elevator speech, and we'll move on to our next candidate. Thank you so much.
Okay, so my quick elevator speech is, as I said, I am passionately committed to making sure we can move forward as a region within the realities of the built environment, right? But also addressing climate change and those issues that are so critical to us right now. These are not binary choices. I believe we can come together and solve these issues. So my background in both the public sector and private sector, I'm well suited for that. So I will put my campaign website in the chat, if that's all right. You can see more details on my priorities and my background. But I would love to be able to represent you all as Metro President.
Thank you, Alisa. Pyszka. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope I'm gonna just keep working on these last names. So thank you all so much. Remember, folks, put your questions in the chat. If it's for a specific candidate, make sure you note it as well, because Marcia will be forwarding these questions on if we don't get to them tonight. And hopefully we'll get a response from these candidates and we can get that back to you all. So please, if you're feeling, we're definitely rushed for time, unfortunately, but let's get those questions in the chat and we'll see what we can get answered for us. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next candidate. Vadim, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me to attend, and it's an honor being amongst all of you. So as individuals already rooted in the community and understanding the issues facing Portland, you already know that there's several crises. We're at an inflection point. We're struggling with the humanitarian crisis in our streets. We're struggling with a dramatic increase in crime, and we're struggling with a crisis in leadership that is inefficient and needs to be improved. So instead of discussing these, if I had more time, I would very much enjoy discussing those in greater depth. But I want to go into more as to why I'm the right leader at this point in time in order to take on these challenges. So a little bit about myself. My family and I came here as refugees from Ukraine, from the former Soviet Union. We came here with very little money, very few possessions, and we didn't even know English. We struggled for a while, but it's quite the quintessential immigrant story. I studied hard, went to public schools, went to public colleges, and went to a public law school. And currently I work as an administrative law judge for the US government. And like many immigrants, I have a big dream, but I also have the pragmatic framework in order to get those dreams achievable, to achieve those dreams. So likewise for Portland, I have the big dreams of a Portland that's able to take care of its most needy, the big dreams where our streets are safe for adults and for children, a Portland that's true to its ambitions of being a green city, a Portland that is equitable for everyone, where everybody prospers equally, and a Portland where we encourage business growth in order to provide a livable salary where people can actually afford to live in Portland, and schools that teach our children well enough so they are prepared for a very complex future. And lastly, Portland that becomes a beacon for everybody in the United States to come here to live in one of the best cities in the United States. So part of that is the pragmatic ability to achieve those dreams. I do this in my background for having been inclusive rather than divisive. Too often we get into a divisive atmosphere where we separate different communities, different individuals, and instead I work on being inclusive. I've been working in the immigrant community as a board member for ERCO in order to help people achieve the very dreams that my parents came here to achieve. I work with the disability community, both in my job as well as having served on the Disability Commission here for Portland. so that all communities here are able to prosper and flourish. In my own personal life, I have worked as a manager, but I have also and currently am a union leader. I am a vice president of a national union, and I oversee 10 states on the West Coast or the western part of the United States and the union membership there. And lastly, and also for community safety, that's an issue which I keep hearing more and more about. So often I talk to individuals on the phone, over coffee, in person, over Zoom, and they keep telling me these stories about how they've experienced a trauma in their lives as a result of the increasing criminality here in Portland. Well, I've been working on those issues for quite a while on the police oversight, on police hearing complaints against the police bureau, and also community engagement with the police, working with the various communities here in Portland, working with the police, working with the city, and working with the Department of Justice in their oversight role as well. And I think that's going to transfer well to the needs of Portlanders in the future, and my job in City Hall, which is to bridge those gaps and get the response times that we need so that people are not victimized anymore. So this is not a job where we need to learn as we go. Part of this is I've actually been working in these arenas, working on disability issues which greatly affect our our homeless community, working on immigration rights issues, which are very near and dear to a lot of Portlanders, and working on community safety issues. And part of that work has been with the current city council. Some of the recommendations that I have made in these various capacities have been accepted by city council in the past and in the current budget cycle, such as public safety support specialists to actually increase the presence of individuals that can take calls when the police are not available. I've championed the increased funding for Portland Street Response so we get an effective response to individuals that might not need someone with a badge and a gun to arrive and speak with them, rather somebody that has the training and the know-how to de-escalate situations. And so once again, this is something that I will bring to the table and be able to, from day one, start off running and accomplish the things that we need to accomplish in order to improve the livability here in Portland. And I'm convinced that together.
Thank you, Vadim. Oh, sorry. I think you've hit time. I saw Britton unmute himself, and he was trying to give you a bit of time, but unfortunately, we want to be fair to everybody. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you stepping up to run. Marcia, do we have some questions?
We sure do. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the three basic questions that have come up so far, so you can get started on those. And if other things come up, I'll try to get those in as well. So homelessness obviously is an enormous issue, but also so is the persisting homeless sweeps that continue to happen. And so really, how would you be addressing that? Is that something that we as a party are very upset about? The other one, the other two, police accountability, and actually they're just published the agreement, or the tentative agreement that they've come to with Portland Police. So if you want to speak to that as well, that issue, and then what if any changes could be made to zoning to allow more housing to be built more quickly.
All right, thank you very much. So with respect to the sweeps, what we really have right now is a difficulty in outreach. You probably have read the news articles that 75% of individuals living in our streets have not been contacted for housing, for mental health services, and for drug addiction services. Of those that have, 66% of them have never had a follow-up contact. And so we're allowing people to live and sadly die on our streets. 126 individuals died on our streets last year, half of them from drug overdoses. And what we're failing them is not in moving them along and doing the sweeps. Where we're failing them is in that outreach, making sure that they're contacted and the services are provided. And so there's certainly success stories around the United States of cities that have improved in that area. Gulfport, Mississippi, Miami, Houston, San Diego. There's several cities that have been able to do that outreach much better than us. And we need to focus on that. We need to help people find stability in their lives so that they can get the services that they need. And that stability is not about just moving them along. It's making sure that we are able to provide the services that they need and that they have the ability to take up those services. And that is not something that can happen on every street corner. So we need to provide the adequate short-term and long-term housing for people in order to provide circumstances where they can find those improvements in their lives. And once again, outreach is the very key for all that, social workers and such. Now, with respect to public safety and the police, yes, there's an agreement on the police contract. A lot of that is still up in the air with respect to this new oversight board. I currently serve on the Citizen Review Committee, hearing complaints against the police bureau, so I'm very familiar about the issues. 3 years ago, we actually made a recommendation to City Council to change our standard of review so we can have a little more authority on disciplinary actions for the police. And that would not have impacted, as far as we can tell, the agreement they have with the police in the city. But it would have given us the ability to have more oversight for the police. Instead, we have this new oversight board that the voters have implemented, but it's been 15 months and that oversight board isn't off the ground. And really even the new committee that's supposed to organize it is barely off the ground. So it looks like it'll be 2 or 3 years. We need to, once again, be pragmatic about the solutions. The dreams are out there of a police force that has good training, that is adequate to respond to 911 calls, but also has that community oversight piece. And that is lagging, and we need to do that quicker so we have the ability to overview the police and bring accountability. And if there's a police officer there that is not working according to policy, or that is not helping the community, we need to remove those police officers. And then lastly, with respect to the zoning laws, inclusionary zoning is helping. Being able to subdivide parcels of land in order to build more on single properties is going to be helpful. And being able to subdivide individual residences right now in order to allow more units in a single space is going to be helpful. What we're seeing lagging right now is those small to mid-size units. The larger units, like we're seeing built downtown, are still being built. We have companies from outside of Oregon coming here and building those very large units. But we need to incentivize those smaller units. I believe that we have the zoning laws to allow that. We need to incentivize, make sure that that we can build more of those smaller units and people can also expand their housing, provide ADUs, and make it reasonable for people to do that. And I think that's part of City Council as well. Thank you.
All right, so if you want to take a quick minute, wrap it up. And then if you don't mind, again, any questions, we'd love to forward them to you candidates and give you an opportunity to answer them. And we'll definitely get them back to our PCPs and our members. So take your quick minute and then we'll move on to the next candidate. Thank you.
So part of the joy of running for office is speaking with individuals such as yourself. I hear a lot of people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and help out, people that are very much looking forward to improving Portland. They see what's around them and they're willing to help. What people keep asking for is a plan. And I think that that's what we need, the practical sort of aspects of creating a plan that people can buy into. So please visit my website, www.votevadim.com. I'll put that in the chat. If you like what you hear, there's more policies on there and how we can accomplish all this together. But I'm looking forward to working with everyone here, and we will make Portland the best city in the United States together. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. That was good. That was like 33 seconds. That was a good short wrap up. That was a nice elevator speech right there. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to move on to our next candidate, our current Oregon treasurer, Tobias Read, who is running for governor. Mr. Tobias Read, are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Hey, there he is. Thank you. Okay, I didn't have you in front on my screen. So, all right. Again, we've got 5 minutes for a quick speech, 5 minutes for some Q&A, and then a quick minute to wrap things up. And then again, if you're willing, we'd love to send you some questions, get them to you, and hopefully you'll be willing to answer them. So go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Multnomah County Democrats. I'm glad to be with you. And this is actually a significant thing because it's the first time, virtual though it is, that Speaker Kotek and I have made a joint appearance. So I'm happy to be with you, despite the fact that these are really heavy times. You know, we've got a pandemic that's still with us. We've got a homelessness crisis. We've got record high gun violence. We've got schools and hospitals that are stretched to the breaking point. So I think Oregonians are stressed and exhausted. I'm running for governor because I think we need strong leadership right now, and now more than ever. I'm a parent of 2 school-age kids, so I see the crisis that our schools are facing right now firsthand. And all the studies make it really clear remote learning is a disaster for most kids. And despite the heroic efforts of teachers, we see our kids falling back on learning. They miss their friends. There are a lot of them that are depressed. When my kids got to go back to school, they absolutely lit up. They couldn't stop talking about all the things they got to do. And it was a total transformation. It was wonderful to watch. We haven't even seen or talked now about the impact of school closures on families and parents. What is a person who works an hourly job supposed to do? And we're putting them in a terrible position, having to choose between caring for their child and keeping their paycheck. That's no kind of choice at all. And the burden of these closures, of course, is falling most heavily on students and families of color. We've got to do everything we can to keep schools open. There are hundreds of millions of dollars available to get high quality masks and tests for students and teachers, to improve ventilation systems and outdoor eating areas. Closing schools has to be an absolute last resort. We face another amazing challenge that we've already talked about in this conversation tonight in the form of homelessness. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this, and the crisis seems only to be getting worse. So it's time for a new approach. There's nothing compassionate. I think we have to be clear about letting our neighbors continue to live in dangerous conditions outdoors. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the small businesses of Oregon and the people who feel unsafe going to work every day. This is not just a Portland problem, to be clear, and we're seeing it all over the state. So in the short term, we've got to prioritize safe and clean shelters and transitional housing to get people off the streets immediately. We have to repurpose vacant hotels and motels and office spaces and make sure that people are connected with the critical mental health and addiction services that they need on site. In the long run, we've got to cut through bureaucracy and build more affordable housing faster. They're big challenges, to be clear, and we shouldn't sugarcoat these problems that we face. But we've also got enormous potential in Oregon, and I've seen what we can do when we work together. As treasurer, I've been focused on working to build our economy and protect your retirement. We've helped more than 100,000 Oregonians save for their retirement, over $150 million. We cut Wall Street fees to the tune of $500 million. We're saving Oregonians money, and we dramatically increased our investments in renewables and clean energy, and used our status as a shareholder to influence corporations to move towards a cleaner economy. In the legislature, I was one of the leaders that brought full-day kindergarten to Oregon, establishing a rainy day fund to help us navigate economic disruptions. So I've always kept my focus on investing in the future, because the decisions that we make right now are what's going to determine our success in the future. We can make Oregon a leader in clean and renewable energy. We're on our way to 100% clean energy by 2040, but to make that a reality, we've got to embrace offshore wind. We've got to build out additional charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. We've got to incentivize our next generation of buildings, homes and offices alike, to be lots more energy efficient. Our fight against climate change and against devastating wildfires depends on our moving quickly. We can also prepare Oregonians for the jobs of tomorrow, but we've got to start investing in kids today. That means creating a baby bond program for every Oregonian at birth, so they have a nest egg ready for them to help them pay for college or job training. It means universal pre-K for every kid to get a head start, raising literacy rates and graduation rates, connecting employers with community colleges to tailor training programs for good jobs. And we can build an economy that doesn't leave Oregonians behind. We've got to build on regional strengths around the state. I'm not content with what's happening in Oregon right now, and I hope you're not either. Lots more that we can do to build a more resilient and strong and healthy economy for future Oregonians. I'm going to confront problems head on and insist on solutions. We've seen state government unable to deal with crises too much lately, and that hurts our capacity. But when we are doing these things together, when we are confronting our challenges, we will be able to build capacity and faith in our government and be able to take on big things and invest in kids. That's why I'm excited about this campaign. That's why I hope you will join us. And I appreciate the conversation tonight and your questions in advance.
Oh, well done. Right under 5 minutes. That was perfect timing. All right. We'll go to questions. Remember, we're going to do this 5 minutes. Put questions in the chat. Folks, Marcia.
Okay, great. And we have received several questions. So let me share those with you. One, in fact, there have been a couple about election reform and contribution limits and where we go from here. The voters have voted, and yet we have not gotten anywhere yet. So where are we going with contribution limits? This is a question that several folks have also asked about, and this is really what you've been doing as a treasurer, but also then as a governor as well, are investments in fossil fuel and how that is contributing to the degradation of the climate and how we're going to turn that around. I'm going to give you one more, which is towards expanding the rural economy and whether there are some changes in the tax system that might be helpful to do that.
Okay, Marcia, there's a lot there. I may need your help recalling all of them in order. So
contribution limits,
yes, got
fossil fuel, rural economy.
All right, good. I appreciate the summary there. So campaign finance, I support the idea of limitations, but I think what we're really talking about here is transparency. You know, I worked on campaigns during the one cycle. Some people here may remember 1996 when there were contribution and expenditure limits. And one of the first things we did every day in the course of that campaign was go to the post office and sort through the recycling bin, because it gave us a 1 or 2 day head start on what voters would see in their homes from the people who got them in their PO boxes and put them in the recycling bins. It didn't change the content of what happened in the campaign or really the volume of that communication. It just was who was responsible for it. So I don't think that contribution limits and campaign finance are necessarily the panacea that we'd like them to be. I'm supportive, but I think places where we can make the funding and the transparency behind campaigns are also really important. With respect to our investments, there's no question that climate change is real. There's no question that it presents a risk to our investments. But I'm not only concerned about what carbon risk is in our portfolio. I'm concerned about what carbon risk is in the air, in the economy. So making sure that we are including those considerations in our investment decisions is integral to what we're doing at Treasury. That will continue after I am no longer treasurer, and making sure that the policies that we adopt as a state are consistent with that is a huge priority for me. I mentioned with respect to the rural economy, the idea that we should be thinking about what strategies and what strengths exist in different parts of the state. We've got to make sure that we're addressing that, and that young people particularly who are growing up in rural communities are not concluding that there aren't any opportunities left for me here. Making sure that there is high-speed internet in every corner of the state so people have opportunities there. It might be seafood and offshore wind in the coast. It might be precision agriculture. It might be mass timber and forestry in Southern Oregon. There are specific specialties in different parts of the state that we've got to build on so that people can see opportunities for themselves going forward.
Great, thank you. You know what? There was a little bit more on that rural question, which I didn't understand at first. That the tax code would be, the tax rates could be geographically different, you know, depending on what part of the state you lived in.
I think I would have to learn more about that too, Marcia. It's an interesting idea, but of course The tax system that we have now includes income tax at a similar rate based on income level, not based on geography, and property tax. There are, of course, local taxes as well, but that's something that may be worth further conversation, but I need to learn more.
Sure.
All right, we've got about one more question, Marcia, or we can go to a wrap up.
Oh, okay. One more question. Single payer healthcare, which has kind of come through a little bit here. So yes, please.
Well, look, there's no question for me that we have an option to make healthcare more accessible, more affordable. And I think what this question, that comes up regularly really points to is the antiquated nature of our structure. It's sort of an accident of history that healthcare is so tied to employment status, and that doesn't make sense. It's in a lot of ways, I've learned lessons here from our experience around Oregon Saves, the first opt-out retirement system in the country for people who don't otherwise have that opportunity where they work. A lot of people are working at employers that don't offer it. They're working in gig situations. They're cobbling together different arrangements. So we don't want a person's ability to retire to be tied just to their employment. We created this system that allows people to have access to that no matter what their employment status is. And I think the same lessons can be applied to healthcare. I'm really interested in any of those options that increase access, that improve affordability and improve the effectiveness of our healthcare system.
All right, thank you. We'll give you one quick minute to wrap things up. Thank you, Marcia, for taking on all these questions for us.
Yeah, great job, Marcia, in summarizing what I'm sure is a lot of volume coming in. I appreciate you taking this election seriously. I'm sure Speaker Kotek would agree with me that right now it feels like there are about 1.2 people in the media who are paying attention to the fact that there is a race, and it's a really important question for Oregonians to consider. I think we're at a place where we have to think carefully about how we improve people's faith in government, our capacity to take on big things. And it is important that the next governor have executive experience, having served not only in the legislature, been in an executive office and have the experience of delivering results, not only creating legislation and policy, but making sure that there is accountability and follow through and delivering results for people. I encourage you to keep in touch with us. Our website and all the social media channels are available, and look forward to keeping in touch with you and hope to earn your support.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tobias Read, our treasurer and candidate for governor. Okay.
Let me just say, meanwhile, I know some folks have gotten questions in the chat that we haven't gotten to. I understand. We will definitely get those questions out to the candidates so that we will get feedback on those as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. And also, I'm just so amazed at how many wonderful candidates that the Democratic Party puts forward. That definitely makes me feel kind of proud. To have so many wonderful options makes me feel really secure, because on the other side, it seems a little scary. So I thank you all for running. We're going to go to our next candidate, former Speaker of the House, as well as Representative for 44. And we do have a new representative for 44, by the way, Travis Nelson, one of our own. He's a fabulous guy. Very excited for him. Tina Kotek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. And I hope you all are helping State Representative Travis Nelson in his first session. I'm very thrilled that Travis has taken over got the appointment so we could make sure House District 44 was represented in the current session. And well, you all know Travis. He's a great guy. So we need him to do well. So please support him. And I want to also concur with the comments tonight. Thank everybody who's running. It's not an easy time to run for public office. I want to thank the treasurer for running. And we have served together, and it's good seeing him here tonight. And thank you to Multnomah County Dems. You do wonderful work, and I appreciate you providing a forum tonight for people to talk about who they are and why they're running. So I'm Tina Kotek. I use she, her, hers, former Speaker of the House and State Representative. I'm running for governor. because Oregon deserves an experienced, effective, progressive fighter to lead our state forward over the next 4 years. I have worked hard and I have succeeded in making a real difference in the lives of Oregonians across our beautiful state. I led the effort to raise the minimum wage, create a paid family and medical leave insurance program, and provide health care for every Oregonian so they can have at least a chance at a better access to health care. I supported working women and their families, leading the effort to pass paid sick leave, to provide subsidies to make childcare more affordable, and to require equal pay for equal work. And when Donald Trump looked to take away access to abortion, I led the effort to pass the strongest reproductive rights law in the country. Abortion rights will be protected in Oregon no matter what happens at the U.S. Supreme Court. But it does matter who the next governor is to protect that. And when Donald Trump tried to attack our immigrant communities, I stood up and with those communities to defend the communities and defend our way of life here in Oregon, which is one where we value everyone who is here. And it is inclusive, and we need to do everything we can to make sure we can live up to that value. Now with the challenges like COVID and houselessness, climate change, Oregon needs an effective progressive fighter to build a better Oregon for all of us. Because at the end of the day, results are what really matter. I know that too many Oregonians struggle with the cost of housing. That's why I passed the first in the nation rent stabilization law and made historic investments in affordable housing. As governor, I will prioritize helping our houseless neighbors and creating safe, affordable housing for more Oregonians. I understand how important it is to tackle the climate crisis and protect Oregon's environment for future generations. That's why I helped set Oregon on the path to 100% clean electricity by 2040, passed historic investments in public transportation and zero emission vehicles, and fought for cleaner diesel engines and clean fuel standards. As governor, I will protect our progress and accelerate our move to a clean energy future. I hope I can earn your support in the primary and then in November. It's really important that a Democrat win in November. The future of our state really over the next 4 years is so critical, whether it's housing, climate, access to healthcare. And we need someone who has the skills, the experience, and the values to get the work done. I look forward to working with you to move our state forward. And I just really appreciate the time tonight and look forward to your questions.
Wonderful, thank you. And 3 minutes, just a little over 3 minutes. That was fabulous. Britton didn't have to unmute. Okay, so Marcia, take it over. We'll go to questions. I'll just keep note on time, or I'm sure Britton is as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. And again, I'm going to give you a couple of things that have come up, and then I imagine that there will be a couple more. So regarding campaign finance and actually having something enacted that can ensure the voters' decision is respected. How would you facilitate that? I do have a question that and this is from one of your constituents, one of your previous constituents. Although you are the uber progressive, and we love that, how will you be ensuring that the entire state of Oregon understands that you are listening and caring about all of their priorities and needs? And the third one is, what things would you do differently? What are the top couple things that you would change in terms of running state government going forward? I'll probably have a couple more because I'm going to check this, but there you go.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm writing those down. Okay, let's start off with campaign finance reform. So I support campaign contribution limits. I voted in favor of the legislation in 2019. I made sure that the House put on the floor a campaign contribution piece of legislation. I believe in transparency. It is time for contribution limits. Unfortunately, the Senate was not able to get that done. I was supportive and made sure that we moved a measure to the voters to change the Constitution to clarify that campaign contribution limits are now constitutional, and we have done that. So as governor, I would support contribution limits if it came to my desk. The time has come for that. It's interesting to be in a state where we have no limits and we are out of sync with the rest of the country, and we need to move forward on that. In terms of serving the entire state, really appreciate that question. One of the things I love about Multnomah County Democrats is you really do want to make sure the whole state succeeds, and so do I. As the Speaker of the House for 9 years, I was the Speaker for the entire state. Yes, I represented North and Northeast Portland, and I took that very seriously and always had, made sure my constituents had what they need and my district concerns were met. But I was there to make sure that the 59 other members of the Oregon House were able to meet the needs of their communities. When folks would come to me and be like, I met with every member, Republican or Democrat, when they had a problem, we tried to solve it, whatever that looked like, to the degree that we could. We're not going to agree on everything, but I think we agree on a lot when it comes to making sure Oregonians across the state have their basic needs met. 20 years ago, when I started at Oregon Food Bank, I went around the state and listened to the stories of people who were having to come in for emergency food boxes. Those stories have never left me. It's about serving the entire state so everyone has economic security, access to housing, good schools. There are a lot of things that we all need, and those are the types of issues that bring us together. And that will be the same style I bring to being the next governor. The one thing that I know that we will need to do, and that I will need to do, is I need, not spend as much time in Salem. People need to be out in communities around the state, listening, convening conversations. The power of the governor to convene conversations is incredible. To listen, find out what the problems are, and solve those by identifying the solutions and putting them into action. Because at the end of the day, when there's distrust in government, what people need to see is progress. They want to see things happening, things getting done. And that's how I approach things. I'm an advocate. I want to get things done because that's what people need us to do. So I'm committed to doing that for the entire state, not just, the Portland metro area. And I'm really looking forward to that. This is a beautiful state. When we all succeed across every part of the state, then it's better for all of us here in the metro area. The third question was, what would I do differently as governor? I think what I would do is take the experience I've had as speaker and as a state rep and make sure that the promises that we have made to Oregonians are followed through on. And that takes management and leadership with the agencies. When we pass something in the legislature, the expectation is it's going to get done. For example, we need to make sure that the paid family leave insurance program gets off the ground, gets it done right. That is like first order of business. How is that project going? Is it getting done? So for me, it's not just what new things we can do, but do the things that we have on the books actually work? Are they being enforced? And we take care of things? That takes management with the agencies. That is one of the primary reasons that I'm running for governor, because I've seen how the systems have faltered and really, in some cases, failed during the pandemic. Look, there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to sit there and like Monday morning quarterback why. What I want to do is say, let's make sure these programs are working. Let's make sure staff are empowered to the promises that we have made to Oregon and be creative. I'm getting feedback a little bit. So I'll stop there. I'm not sure I've totally answered that question, but I do think for me, it's about how we do business as an executive branch. And I'm really looking forward to being effective and efficient and frankly, producing results for Oregonians.
Okay, so I'll say this, we're at just a little over 5 minutes, almost 6 on question and answer, but you were 2 minutes short on your 5-minute speech.
I'm trying to save you time.
So yeah, which is so hard to do in democratic politics, right? Like saving time and not going over. So if you want to take an extra minute just to wrap up, or Marcia, do you want to ask another question?
I have one more, because actually there was a question on upgrading and streamlining our bureaucratic agencies. So you got that, just there you go. But the other one was access to health care, especially in our rural communities, which is really, we've seen that really as a problem with the pandemic.
Yes. Well, and we don't have a coordinated universal system, right? So that's why we haven't been able to respond as well as other places in the world that do. I know that insurance and having a coverage is important, but it is not guaranteed access. We have to reduce costs, copays and deductibles. We have to make sure access is real, particularly in rural communities, which means making sure they have the workforce they need, the access points they need, particularly in the behavioral health service system. We're really failing folks right now. We have to do a better job. And what I would say in terms of the other big issue for me has been over the years is making sure that our providers are culturally competent, culturally responsive, making sure people have access to healthcare interpreters. We have to make sure we have a system that serves every Oregonian when they need care. And we have a long way to go there. And I've done a lot of healthcare work over the years, looking forward to, I was there when we created the coordinated care organizations for the Oregon Health Plan. We have a lot of work to do. And, but we have a good foundation to build on. So we need to build on that and keep going further to make sure access is actually real and affordable for folks.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're coming up on time. You want to give us your quick 1-minute wrap up?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to say, I really appreciate everything the Multnomah County Dems do. I would welcome all of you to volunteer and donate on my campaign, TinaForOregon.com. Check out my video, be part of the Team Tina. We'd love to have you. And thanks for the time tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, our elected representatives here. It's wonderful to see you here, show up and speak to our party. It's really important to our members to see your faces, hear your voices. I think it's fantastic. And just real quick, I believe she's still with us here, maybe not. Representative Akasha Lawrence Spence is also here. Thank you for joining us. So leaders showing up for meetings is amazing. By the way, real quick, folks, before we get to the next candidate, if you are a leader in the party or you're a representative in the party, please note that and change your name. Thank you, Candace, for noting your house district. We really appreciate that. We'll move on to our next candidate, our final candidate for the evening, Casey Kula. Please tell me I have said that last name correctly. This is the third time I've said it, and you haven't said it. All right.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Casey. You've got some time before the Democrats here.
Well, first, I want to say,
you froze up a little bit. Well, you're on. You're on.
I am. Okay, great. Thank you. So if I have internet troubles, we're going to work on that with Treasurer Read and former Speaker Kotek, right? Okay, so I'm going to do an exercise if people are willing to bear with me a little bit, right? Okay, yeah. So you know how to use your digital hand, you know how to raise your hand, right? Or you know how to raise your physical hand at least. All right, so I'm going to go through a series of questions and I'm going to want your help on this. All right, you ready? All right, so raise your hand if you know where to go when you discover that your mother or your grandmother is being harmed in a nursing home or a long-term care facility. All right, I'm seeing some raised hands. Okay, great. So that would be either the long-term care ombudsman or Oregon DHS. All right, you can put your hands down for just a moment. So raise your hands again. You put them down, yeah, but raise them again if you know where I should go, if my employer only provides broken ladders or no respirators when I'm working with asbestos, or if they're mishandling pesticides. All right, there's a lot of raised hands. Okay, great, you can put them down again. That would be Oregon OSHA. All right, now, if you find that your neighbor is harassing you because you're Jewish, who do you reach out to? Raise your hand if you know on that one. Some of you are like, I'm just gonna keep my hand raised. All right, that would be Oregon DOJ's Bias Crimes Hotline is the best place for that. And shout out to the folks who've helped set that up who are here on the call. All right, raise your hand if you know where to turn, if your employer is withholding your wages. And it's the same agency as a hint that could help you if your employer laid you off because of your age. Nice, look at all these smart, knowledgeable people. That would be the Bureau of Labor and Industries. All right, put your hands down, please. All right, the next one is, what about if, like at the Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, you find that your union formation vote is being manipulated by your employer, or your employer refuses to abide by your collective bargaining agreement? Raise your hand. Yeah, some of you, yes. Oh, yeah. So that would be the Employment Relations Board. Excellent. Okay, finally, I want to ask you one last question. You can put your hands down. And that's if you have an idea about why Oregon's labor commissioner is elected rather than appointed. Some of you are like, I'm going to just keep my hand up because I know the answers. All right, so you can put into the chat. This is one where you can just answer by putting it in the chat. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. Okay, I want to thank you. You can put your hands down. That was really awesome. Hopefully you had some fun. I really appreciate that. And I hope that you've seen that there's an assortment of agencies in the state who are all tasked with educating and mediating and enforcing some parts of Oregon's laws on safety and civil rights and worker rights. And honestly, no one should have to know where to go. It should be our responsibility at the agencies to communicate clearly and to help somebody who has a complaint kind of no matter what. So what is the BOLI responsibility, the Bureau of Labor and Industries, in that galaxy of agencies? BOLI, in short, again, in short, so some of you will be like, it's not all that they do, educates, investigates, and enforces on civil rights in the workplace, in public accommodations, and in housing. And BOLI registers and supervises apprenticeships. So I'm running for labor commissioner in order to educate Oregonians about their rights, empower you so that you know where to go if your rights are violated, and to build trust that you know you'll have a just and fair and swift outcome when you reach out with a civil rights concern. And I'm running for labor to ensure that we have an independent, fully funded, responsive civil rights and labor rights agency. And I'm running for labor to expand apprenticeship types and slots and to support apprentices from all walks of life in the ways that they need support. So who am I that I can do this? And I'm seeing chair moving around here, so hopefully I'm not running out of time. I'm a Yamhill County Commissioner. All right, so I know how to run a responsible, responsive government agency and how to work with labor, management, and the public. And I'm a farmer and a farm worker, which means I know that businesses, what they need in order to uphold their responsibilities. And I know what workers need in order to feel safe and human on the job. I worked as a plumber's assistant to pay my way through college. And so I know the value of apprenticeships and union membership. And like a couple of other people who've mentioned here, it's personal for me too. I'm a father of two, and I want my own children to have a bright future in which their civil rights are upheld and they have the opportunity to do satisfying work. So that is it for me. And I will say,
5
Chair,
minutes of
that
questions and answers, Casey.
yes, that's right. I just want to say, full disclosure, I am listening out of one ear to the coyotes behind me, and it is so beautiful. And it looks like one other person here is also outside. So shout out to the outsiders. Okay, thank you.
Right. So now you've got questions from Marcia, who's taking questions from the chat. Marcia, take it away.
Right, and so far I have only seen one question, which is regarding, and I'm not sure if this is a BOLI question precisely, but it is a labor question for sure, which is that since the start of the pandemic, people have had limited employment. And so some people have not had and been employed enough in their new jobs to be able to qualify for unemployment should they lose that position. It's kind of a special, difficult situation where we're in and how we might try to solve that for people.
Yeah, Marcia, that's a really good, and it was it from Michael?
I think so. It's way up the chat.
Yeah. And but he clarified or added something to it, the 12-month base year restriction.
Oh, right, the 12-month base year.
And unfortunately, and this is what what commissioners do, is unfortunately I know all about this because when, in March of 2020, when pandemic hit, there were suddenly thousands of people in our community. I think we had 7,000 Yamhill County residents who had filed for unemployment in the span of about a week. And so I learned all about it in trying to help them navigate a system that most people had never been through before, and especially for folks who were independent contractors and gig workers. And that exposed a whole nother realm of risk, right? Is that some workers in our communities don't have the protection and even benefit of unemployment if they can get it. So I think that Michael's question is a really important one about making sure that the labor commissioner is working with employment department to advocate for some of these changes to make them easier for people to access the benefits that they've earned, frankly. And it looks like there's some other.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Oh yeah,
other
sorry.
questions. One of the.
Marcia, it's your job.
Oh, that's okay. So one, I'm going to give you two. Okay, one is helping fast food employees, Starbucks, Burgerville, and others, helping them unionize. And the other one is how you're growing and fast tracking youth internships or apprenticeships to get into good wage, good jobs.
Those are such great questions. Okay, the first one, was about, McDonald's workers, Starbucks workers. So, one of the roles that the labor commissioner can take on, especially because they're an elected official, is they can champion some of this advocacy of making access to unions and unionization easier, right? It's not within the educate, enforce, investigate role of the labor commissioner, but it's labor issues, right? It's about justice, economic justice, safety, and social justice in your job. So that's an important component of it, is to advocate for them. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it. One that I learned about recently was the Joy Silk doctrine. Like, raise your hand if you know about the Joy Silk doctrine. All right, Marcia says no. I bet that somebody in here does. Like, there's so many people who are doing so much who are on this meeting right now. But that's one where up until I think the 1950s, it was acknowledged that if a majority of the votes to signal interest in forming a union in a shop, if there was a majority vote that automatically formed a union, rather than having to do the step of vote whether or not they want to form a union, and then several months later actually vote to form the union, because in that time frame you get a lot of union busing activity by workplaces and by bosses. And then the second one was around internships and young people and apprenticeships. And I will say, so one of the roles that I hold right now is I'm on the board of our workforce partnership, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand on that, but workforce partnerships actually are the bodies that take federal money to do workforce training for both young people and adults who are displaced from jobs or who are returning from Department of Corrections. And so in that role, we do a lot of connecting young people with internships, pre-apprenticeships, and apprenticeship programs. But as Senate Bill 1545, which hopefully Senator Lawrence Spence is still here, because I'm going to shout out to let's pass 1545. Maybe we can even talk about it at some point, is Future Ready Oregon, which provides a significant increase in funding for pre-apprenticeships, workforce training, and apprenticeship programs through Higher Education Coordinating Commission and through the BOLI. So those are two really important components of it. Did I answer it? I'm sure I didn't, but.
No, I think.
I actually have two more that have come up that are also, I think you'll want to.
Well, Marcia, we're at time, Marcia, unfortunately. Okay. So yeah, I tell you, these things move so much faster than I even imagined. So if you want to take a quick minute to wrap things up, Casey, that would be fabulous. And please remind us about your campaign, where to go, and what you're running for.
All right. So, but first, I want to thank a lot of people on here, including Marcia and Spencer and a couple other folks. I have worked with you just in little bits here and there on issues in our state, and I'm really grateful for you just like showing up in communities, even communities that you don't have like as strong of a connection to. So thank you very, very much. But with that, I'm running for labor commissioner. I'm Casey Kula. I'm a Yamhill County commissioner, which means that you're going to get an experienced executive level elected official running the state agency that takes care of civil rights education enforcement and I'm honored to have your support. I'll put my information in the chat. It's so great to be with you all. And thank you so much for doing the hand raising. I learned from you.
All
And
right.
Senator Lawrence Spence says that 1545 is looking good. Thank you so much.
Senator Lawrence Spence, for mentioning that. Thank you, Casey, and thank you all of our wonderful candidates. It's amazing to, again, I'm just always blown away about how many wonderful candidates and wonderful Democrats I've had the experience of getting to know. On that subject, we do have a candidate training coming up ourselves. We can give you some more information if we can put something in the chat, but it's on February 26th. Marcia, Britton, do you have any last finishing words or anything you want to say?
Nothing for me.
Thank you very much to our candidates. As I had mentioned, I'm going to copy the chat, take a look, and make sure to get the questions out to the candidates so that you can get answers to all of your questions. As long as we're talking about candidate training, yes, the 26th, and I will put that link out in the email that I follow up with. If you are thinking, maybe I'd run for school board, maybe I'd run for city council in, Lake Oswego or Troutdale or, one of the smaller communities, we need you. We need a Democrat in every single seat. This is really, Steve Bannon is getting his people in every single seat. I just spent some hours knocking doors in Newburgh because they have a school board that doesn't believe Black Lives Matter and isn't making it safe for children who aren't white, upper middle class to be safe in their schools. And that's us. So we've got to be in every single seat. So if you are even maybe thinking you'd run for office, come to our little 4-hour training. You'll get the nuts and bolts. You'll be ready to go when the opportunity arises. So thank you.
All right. Britton.
I have nothing to add, just gratitude to all the candidates for showing up and all the PCPs for showing up as well. Appreciate everyone's time.
And Britton, thank you for working so hard, and our campaign committee for working so hard and leading that and making this and organizing this, because I know it's a lot of work, and you've done a lot to reach out to our candidates. And again, like I said earlier, we're going to do our best to try to reach out to as many candidates as possible. For those of you who have not seen, the list grows and grows still. We just had another person file for a governor position or governor candidacy not too long ago, just a couple days. So, the list is going to keep growing. We're going to certainly try our best to meet the need and try to get as many candidates in front of our members as possible. Anyway, candidates, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I so much appreciate it. Remember, this is available on YouTube. You're welcome to ping that, learn it, share it, do what you want with it. In fact, we certainly encourage you sharing that. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Honestly, before time, which is fabulous. Like it's always seriously. As a Democrat, I'm always like, man, we beat our time. It's not even 7:30 yet. So also real quick, Senator Lawrence, if you're with us, if you're still here, I'll flip the pages. If you don't mind just saying a quick hello, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe she's gone.
No, I'm here. I was just multitasking. I was, you have to talk to senators about bills happening right now. So I was multitasking. I heard my name, but I didn't hear what you wanted me to speak on.
Oh, nothing specific. I just wanted to say, if you wanted to say hello to the group, we've got several minutes before we have to go into our official meeting, before we let most of our guests go this evening. So yeah, if you just want to say a quick hello.
So just really quickly, hi everyone. Thank you so much for your continued support. I am very excited to pass a lot of really good bills this session. I see Bill is right under me, under my screen, and really excited about Divest Oregon, and really glad that you guys asked Treasurer Read about divesting from fossil fuels. That is incredibly important, as well as the Equity Investment Act. We have so many bills. The BIPOC Caucus just released our 2022 legislative agenda. There's so many great bills that would really change the course of the livelihood for Oregonians statewide. And it's critical when folks like you guys come to testify, write in, call your electeds to tell them that this is incredibly important and we need to pass these bills. I can put in the chat in a few minutes just some bill numbers that I think that this group would be particularly interested in. These bills it's a short session, so things are moving really quickly. And so the more advocacy that we have to pass these things and to show that there is widespread community support, the more likelihood that they will pass and get on the floor to come up for a vote. So just thankful continuously for all the work that you all do and how involved you are and engaged you are, because we can't do any of this without you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for taking a minute to speak with us. I appreciate that. Folks, it's almost time to start transitioning. I would like to get a quick break in. Our new fundraising chair, Moses Ross, made a request. He wants to take a quick minute to chat. And I'm so happy to have a fundraising chair. Thank you, Moses, for stepping up. You want to take a quick minute? And then after that, folks, I would suggest that we take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. Our central committee meeting, our business meeting, will start at 7:30. And I think I'm sure all of us might appreciate a short break beforehand. But Moses, you want to say what you needed to say, sir? And thank you.
Oh, hey, everybody. I just wanted to make a very quick reminder announcement that for us to be successful next in the upcoming elections, the health of the party financially is a big thing. And you can do it in a very small, you can help us in a very small action. And that is our monthly pillar of the party. $5 a month on up, $1 a month makes a difference in our ability to reach out to voters and to get Democrats elected locally. And we've got a big season coming up here, and we've got some great candidates, obviously. So please consider becoming a pillar of the party and setting up a monthly recurring donation. It would be gratefully accepted and smartly used. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. All right, Lisa, did you have your hand up? Or was that just a reaction?
Oh, that's me. I was messaging you to please, folks, do not log off. The credentialers need a break too.
Thank you, Lisa.
So just walk away from your computer. Don't hit any buttons.
But please mute yourself, turn off your camera. There are things we don't want to know, we don't want to see. So yeah, because I think we're still live. Okay, and Aaron, I'm sure you'll take us off live as before we go to our business meeting.
Yes, doing so now. Thank you.
All right, folks, we start up at 7:30. Join us a few minutes before. We'll get things going. Take a few minutes, take a break, digest everything you just heard. And thank you, candidates, once again for joining us. We have this happening again